My grandma taught me how to sew when I was 4. Her sewing room was an old garage at my childhood home that my grandpa converted for her when they bought the place. She ran her own business out of it called Creative Quilts. She always said that the day that she dies is the day she stops sewing. I just never suspected how quick that time would come. My grandma, Karen Kerner, died from bile duct cancer. It took only 2 months from when I found out for the disease to take her from the world. But I was lucky enough to reminisce with her briefly for 2 final times.
Yeah. I waddle like a duck, too.
I knew something was wrong because my body wasn't acting right.
My old one, and it's funny, I put the card in this one, and the phone works in that one.
I'm not healthy anymore. Well, cancer does that to people. I got the doctor I had for my cancer was open and honest and gave me all options they could try, but he also said that it might not work. And I told him I don't want to run up a big hospital or doctor bill. And I says I'm prepared and I'm ready to go whenever I go. I'm not real good in pronouncing words. I can't even pronounce half my drugs. And when they ask me about them, I can't even remember what I was taking. Just whatever they order.
This is Karen Kerner. I always admired her for her creativity and her strong sense of character.
I use the wrong word. I keep calling her a urn or urnal.
And I can't forget about her sense of humor.
And Hal keeps saying, no, it's a urn, not a urinal. That's what you pee in. I said, well, I don't pee in one of them.
In my eyes, she was one of the coolest people I knew. She was her own boss. Every customer was always overjoyed seeing her finish quilts. She always knew how to meet me at my level. She never thought she was smart. And sometimes people talked down to her. But I learned now that it was her humbleness that made her wise.
In fact, my last job, the new owner came and talked to us, and I stood up and I said, sir, I'm very grateful you hired me for a job so I can have a job, because I had no high school diploma. I wasn't very smart in school.
My grandma was born on May 27th of 1941. She grew up number 5 out of 6 girls. She always kept herself busy by pulling pranks and being creative. I'll always remember her stories, as they passed down a lot of life lessons. She told us that the way to deal with bullies was by slapping a bee down their back, and taught us the values of life and stealing, a lesson she learned after accidentally killing a koi fish from her classroom's pond. But she always found herself in unpredictable scenarios.
So I had a little taste of everything in life. Nothing surprises me anymore.
But that's because, just like me, she was always curious about everything around her.
Like I said, you don't have a choice when you marry the girl you fall, or guy, fall in love with. You can't stop love. It's a natural thing to happen.
When my grandma was around 15, a senior at a neighboring school took a liking to her. Bill would begin to walk my grandmother home from school and protect her from other guys. But the real thing that brought them together was dancing.
Oh, music stop.
I was into jitterbug and doing flips over the back and side to side of the hip that they do in professional.
My grandma and Bill practiced daily in preparation of the harvest ball when my grandma was 16.
The winners win a brand new car. And of course I was 16. Who wouldn't want a brand new car, all paid for, to drive when you're taking driver's ed?
My great-grandmother Mona never approved of Bill. After Mona found out about my grandma's plan to enter the harvest ball, Mona took my grandma to the courthouse and forced her to sign marriage paperwork. Mona left my grandmother abandoned with a paper bag of her belongings and enough pocket change to call her new husband, who was unaware of what just happened. What my grandmother never expected was for the young couple to start to fight. Bill's protective facade over my grandmother quickly turned into a mental prison for the next 6 years of her life. She lived in a cramped apartment with 3 of Bill's friends and attempted to leave him numerous times, but she always ended up coming back. It almost drove my grandma to the point of suicide. She told me that she once tried to take a pistol that Bill had and turn it onto herself.
And I checked the lock was off, and then all of a sudden my brother-in-law, Don, showed up looking for Bill because they used to go hunting and fishing. So I had to answer the door, so I put the gun away. Hey, that's saved my life.
One of Bill's friends and grandma's roommates took a liking to her. My grandpa, Frank Kerner, was witness to the abuse his friend Bill exerted over my grandma. My grandpa originally tried to stay out of his friend's relationship, but my grandma eventually left Bill for him after Bill threatened my grandma's life.
Then I finished filing my second time of trying to divorce Bill. But that's the first time I had a loaded gun pointed at me. He was gonna kill me anyways.
Yet another lesson that I learned from my grandma is that not everything works out the way you think it would. By the time my grandma was my age, she was remarried to my grandpa and moved into their own house in Illinois. My grandma then gave birth to my oldest uncle, Dan, which my grandpa raised as his own. Their family grew larger with the addition of my uncle Tom, and finally with my mom, Amy, after they settled down in southern Wisconsin. After raising their own family, my grandparents moved north to Radisson, Wisconsin to live out their retirement, and where my grandma finally fulfilled one of her dreams.
When I came up here, my sewing machines were all paid for. We paid cash for the long arm, so I could keep my prices low. And I had a couple of the older quilters here called me up and they wanted to get together and set the price. I said, no, I'm going to keep my prices low. I thought, Chinese can make it low. I can too.
She never made a website, no ads in any local papers, but she would sew night and day in her sewing room, and I would help her out on occasion.
I never had an advertise. Mine was all word of mouth.
When I went off to college, one of my last adventures with my grandma really opened up my eyes. She told me of her death wishes and put me in charge of her finances. I should have known then that the thread on her spool was running out. Halfway through my sophomore year of college is when my grandma received her cancer diagnosis. The news was hard to digest, but she assured me and the rest of my family that everything would be fine.
Sometimes I wish it was over with. Wish I tried to eat and my stomach don't like. I never know what day I'm going to be able to keep my food down. And try to go, oh, you guys don't cry for me. Just be happy that I got to know you in life. Of course, I'll miss you. But you'll always be in my heart. I hope and pray that, I don't know, I got a lot of peace of mind about life. And
my grandma died peacefully in her sleep around 2 a.m. at the age of 81. Although I was 2 hours away, I felt a large part of my world being ripped out of my heart. 2 years later, as I'm finishing my degrees, I know how proud my grandma is of me. Her life experience and her company is something that'll always feel with me forever. The Karen Kerner I'll remember is the one who left lasting impressions onto the people she passed. I know now it's because of her early struggles that she's endured. But regardless of how many times she had to rip out and start over, her values, her talents, her creative way of life are embroidered onto me. Though she'll admit her life wasn't perfect, I think she would consider what she has done in her lifetime to be so perfect.